Hi everyone! Today's video is my my favorites for the month of December. This is everything that I've been loving throughout the last month, and there was an easy favorite to talk about for this month. And at the start of December, I knew I wanted to make more of an effort to use this palette exclusively because I just feel like it's seasonally appropriate. And that is the Faced Gingerbread Spice palette from last year's holiday launch. It was last year's, right? Because the extra spicy was this year. That was not extra spicy. But now I'm starting to wonder if I'm getting my launches messed up. I'm pretty sure this was the holiday launch for 2018. Maybe it just feels like even longer ago because I think it launched in like September of 2018. And by the time the holidays for 2018 rolled around, everybody was kind of tired of it. Anyway, this December, I knew I wanted to play with this palette quite a bit because I had really loved it last year, but I kind of forgot about it throughout this year just because I didn't feel like it was really the appropriate time to wear it until the holidays. And I know that's silly, but it is a very holiday themed palette. You've got your little gingerbread man over here. This just makes me think Christmas. So I wanted to use this during the Christmas season, and I put it out on my desk or my vanity at the start of December, and I used this, I think, pretty much every single day throughout December when I was definitely for sure going to work, and I brought it with me on vacation as well. And I felt like I really got to know the palette even better. I had used this extensively, but when you use it so consistently for 3 or 4 weeks, you really get to know a palette. And honestly, I'm still really happy with it, but I do feel like there's a few problem areas that I hadn't really noticed before. I do feel like Gumdrop, which is a gorgeous matte, deeper magenta color, while pretty on application, can really struggle in some areas. I got a lot of patchiness that I hadn't seen before, and maybe it's the way I apply eyeshadow now, if it's changed at all, or maybe the formula's just changed a little bit in the year and a half that I've had it, but that seemed a little bit bizarre. However, in general, I do feel like the rest of it has held up really well. I love looking at my cookie through my crease area. It's not a brown, it's more of a peach, to be honest, and I felt like it just really added the right touch in that transition area. It looked really beautiful. I love Hot Toddy, of course, and it's a shadow that looks very similar to a Clionadh shadow, actually, one of their multi-chromes, because it fades from like a bright orange to a hot magenta. Very cool shade, especially for Too Faced. I feel like Too Faced does very safe shadows. You don't really tend to find very interesting duochromes from them, so I thought Hot Toddy was a really cool color. And then I use Spice of Life a lot, Warm and Toasty, which is that gold over here, and then I made sure to actually use the browns a little bit more because I generally gravitate towards more colorful shadows, but I wanted to make sure that I was using the browns through here, like Gingerbread, Oh Snap, and Gingerbread Latte. Turns out I love Oh Snap through the crease. It's a little bit shimmery looking at it in the pan, but I never felt like it actually came across shimmery on the eye, so maybe it's more of a satin. The glitter probably just sort of dusts away. But I did really like that one through my crease as well. And overall, I'm really happy with this palette, and I'm just happy that I spent so much time with it this past month. We all get these palettes that we think are going to be like the holy grail palette, and it's the one we're going to use forever kind of thing. And I knew I did really like this palette, but I wanted to make sure I got like specific use out of it throughout December. And yeah, I'm still really in love with it. It is my top Too Faced palettes. And I am sad by their launch this year because I feel like it pales in comparison to this one, but this was a keeper, and if you were lucky enough to get it last year and then again during the relaunch this year, you got a good one. You know, in looking at this now, I don't think there's a single shadow that I didn't use in the last month. Pretty proud about that. Okay, another palette that I used a lot in the last month is the Colorpop Just My Luck palette. And it's mostly for 2 specific shades in here. I did review this palette, and my overall thoughts from what I remember were that I liked it, but that I felt it actually leaned quite blue, which is funny because it's marketed as a green palette, so you wouldn't think that most of the shades in here would veer blue, but they kind of do. However, the 2 colors in here that definitely veer more towards the green side of things are Mobamba and Charmed. And I went back to those 2 colors so much in the last month. I actually have Mobamba on my outer corner today, and I used Charmed a lot actually with the Gingerbread Spice palette with Spice of Life, just because like I felt that the 2 colors really went well together. I used that on the lid, and then I used charmed on the outer corner, and I think it worked out well. Maybe not with this palette, but with some other shadows I was using. I really got drawn into green eyeshadow throughout December, and I think it's really just because I'm thinking of like Christmas trees and evergreens covered in snow kind of thing. So I wanted to use a little bit more green shadows. And there's this weird gap in my makeup eyeshadow collection that I've only started to realize in like the last year, but I don't have like a true Hunter matte green color. I can't find that kind of shadow really anywhere. INGLOT doesn't make one, or I just go buy one. And these were kind of the closest that I could find. They're not quite right, but I used them so consistently throughout the month because I kept sort of looking for that perfect Hunter green, and these worked well together. But yeah, I can't think of a single matte Hunter dark green in my collection, which is bizarre. You'd think that's something that should be easy to find, but yeah, I didn't have one. So I ended up using these two a lot and found that I did really like them. Their application is smooth, the colors are pigmented, and I mean the rest of the palette is nice too, but I really went back to these two colors a lot. Next up are a pair of false lashes, which I might have mentioned before, but I'm not sure if I've mentioned this style specifically. So these are by Socialised. They are cruelty-free lashes. They're not made with mink hairs. They're just purely synthetic. And Socialised is a Canadian brand out of Vancouver, and they make a lot of different fake lashes. And they sent me a whole pile of them, I think at the start of 2019. I tried a whole bunch of them out, do really enjoy them. But this one in particular is the one that I've been going back to the most, and they are the lady lashes. And I think the reason I like these is because they're just easier to apply because they're basically a half lash. If you're wearing a full strip lash, for me anyway, it can be quite difficult to get that inner corner like down in place properly and then get everything set in place and not have the edges ping off at some point. With a half lash, you're not having to suffer through the pain of having that full curve on your eye, which causes some flex, right? So there's like some torque in there that is more likely to ping off the edges. With a half lash, you're basically just pinning your outer corner and then basically ending it roughly at the middle of your eye. It just sits better, it tends to be more comfortable. It does give a pretty effect depending on the kind of lashes that you have, but these ones definitely flare out more at the edges. So they just look a little bit more like a cat eye, a little bit more of a wing, which I like because I tend to wear wing liner all the time, and anything that will accentuate that sort of wing look I really like. And they're just overall comfortable to wear. I have several of these pairs. I am wearing them right now, but I've got another pair right now because they were kind enough to send me like backups of the ones that I really enjoyed. And while I have plenty of backups of them, I can easily get 25 to 30 wears out of them. They are not a synthetic lash that will break down very easily, which I appreciate. And I think the price point's really good too. I think it's around, they are a half lash, so they might be less, but I was gonna say $8, but maybe they're a little bit less because they are a half lash. So I've really enjoyed them as a brand as a whole, but these ones in particular have been the ones that I've definitely gone back to the most. And I pretty much wore these, I think, exclusively throughout December, and they have been the ones that throughout the whole year I just keep gravitating towards just because they're easier to apply. Okay, the next product I'm going to talk about is the Benefit Gimme Brow. And I know, this has been around for a very long time. A lot of people have loved this for a great many number of years. And to be honest, the first time I tried this out, I had a sample size of it and I didn't like it. And it's possible I wasn't using it the way that I use it now, or maybe I just did my brows differently at the time. But the mini size that I had didn't work great, didn't really like the effect, and I pretty much tossed it after trying it for, I don't know, on and off for a month and a half. Well, recently I got sent the holiday PR package of like all of their brow products of one particular shade. This is shade 2, which works for me. And I decided to give it a shot because I was reviewing it for the blog, and I can link to that blog post down below in case you're interested in reading it. And my mind has totally changed about this product. I started doing my brows a little bit differently in the last 2 months, and I think maybe that has something to do with it. I'm trying to create more like, I don't even know how to describe it, more like hairs going upwards and then outwards. And I don't have a lot of brow, so it is hard to create some of that because I don't know, I'm just not very skilled in the brow department. But after I've laid down my brow products with pencils, I will then go in with this, and get the hairs covered and pushed upwards. And I think it makes my brows look a little bit more bushy and more natural, because I used to basically just, I wasn't carving out my brows, but I was just completely filling them in because there's so much area to cover. My brows are so blonde and so sparse. Nemo! He wants to play. Anyway, my brows are so sparse that I've basically just been filling them in as much as possible because there's just not much there. So lately I've started to change a little bit how I'm doing the brow pencils, but then I started incorporating this after using both brow pencils, which the 3 products for your brows really feels excessive because I hate doing my brows. But I started adding this in afterwards, and I just feel like it's made a difference. So if you're not familiar with Gimme Brow, it's basically a brow mascara. It's this tiny, tiny little wand. It's coated in product. It's got little fibers in the mascara base, eyeshadow, eyebrow base, and they can bulk up your eyebrows a little bit, but what I find this mostly does is tint my brows a little bit of a deeper color so that it'll show up better, because they're so blonde that they look translucent a lot of the time. And this will add a little bit more bulk to them. They'll kind of like pin them up in place. My brows don't feel crunchy, but it just adds a little bit more volume, and I just really like the overall effect. Again, I don't necessarily like using 3 different products on my brows, but because I'm just lacking in the brow department, I guess this is just what I have to do to like build them up. So yeah, I've really changed my opinion on the Benefit Gimme Brow. I love this, and I don't think I'm anywhere near finishing this stuff up because you really don't need much to apply. But I think this is now going to be a staple in my makeup routine because it just adds a little bit of extra oomph and seems to work flawlessly with the products I was already using. So really impressed with Benefit's Gimme Brow. I know plenty of people have been using it for a very long time now, but I'm finally on the bandwagon. So that's it for my favorites for the month of December. I have already filmed my 2019 yearly favorites, both palettes and makeup products. I'll link to those down below in case you want to see those videos. But yeah, that was it for just strictly December. Really like these products, and I'm so happy I got so much use out of this palette in particular this month. That was a lot of fun. Anyway, thanks for joining me today. I hope you found this interesting. Let me know what you loved throughout December, and that'll be it for this one. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Bye!